Every time I got serious about starting my business, I always got hung up on the one major component, and that's the business plan. I don't know why that's so hard. It's basically just a roadmap for how you want to run your business. And it seems quite simple, but there are tons and tons of books out there on how to do every component of the business plan. And I thought to myself, I can't be the only person who struggles with putting together a business plan. I got to make this more simple. And so I created a business plan workbook. And so today, I'm going to go through each of the sections of it, show you how you can get a copy of it, and have even a couple little bonus tips for you. So stick around. If you want to get your own copy of the workbook, I'll put a link down in the description for you. Those you'll see 2 or 3 links there, a couple of free items. I do reference them later on in the video, but you'll see them all together. Okay, you are going to have some options of getting the workbook in a digital format, or if you'd like a hard copy. Personally, I like the hard copy myself. I like to be able to write on something. It's a nice spiral bound piece. You can make some notes on it, and then you can always go back and clean it up. And I'll give you a digital template at the very end too. So if you want to convert it all, it'd be pretty easy to do. All right, enjoy. So my thought in creating the business plan workbook was, how do I create something that's easy to follow? It's pretty simple. Everything's in layman's terms, and people can feel some sense of accomplishment as they work through it. Now, the actual workbook itself has about 25 pages in it. Now, don't get alarmed. All right, there's a bunch of worksheets in there. There's a bunch of scratch paper included in there. All right, but there's basically about 9 sections of the workbook, and I'm going to touch on each of those for just a second. By the time you finish filling out the workbook, you'll have all the information you need put into your business plan. Okay, so essentially the workbook just helps you gather all the information that you need, and then have a template for you to be able to plug in all of your information, and you're done. All right, that's the beautiful thing about it. Of course, like anything else, you're going to have to revise it as your business gets older, as your business changes, as your ideas evolve. You'll have to go back to it, but at the end of the day, you're going to have a document that you can show to any financial institution. You can show to any potential investors that you have an idea, you have it in writing, and this is your roadmap. All right, let's talk about how the workbook is put together. All right, I'm going to read a couple of sections out of the workbook here. Section 1 is goals and dreams. And so it goes something like this. Define your vision and your mission for your company. Outline your short-term and long-term business goals. This is a high-level overview. Don't get bogged down here. Keep it short and sweet. Go to the workbook, section 1A, page 6. Okay, so you flip your workbook over to Section A, page 6, and you begin to answer the questions. All right, so I've given you some instructions within the workbook to help guide you along the way. Some of these are going to be really short. Some are going to take you a few minutes to do. Some will take a little bit longer, but it's all good work that you need to do anyway. Okay, let me give you the example of Section A workbook for goals and dreams. Now, my goal here is to try to inspire you a little bit and ask some questions that might get you thinking a little bit about what your business is and what it is that you want to accomplish. For example, to define what your ultimate dream is, what if you were explaining that to somebody in an elevator and you said, hey, I'm getting ready to start a business? What if they said, what is your ultimate dream? Okay, well, you know what? You're only going up a few floors. You got to get it out pretty quick. And that's really all this is, a simple statement about what it is you want to accomplish. Now, in the section with goals and dreams, obviously you've got to set some goals. And these are pretty simple to do. Again, pretty high level overview. If you're going to start a t-shirt business, then you probably ought to know how to acquire material. You probably need to understand about silk screening. You need to understand about iron-ons. You need to understand how to acquire those machines, or are you going to send that stuff out to get done? But in this section, I've created a pretty simple workbook on, like, here's goal number 1. Let's identify what the problem is. What are the 3 or 4 action steps that we need to take to do them? And how will I know when I've got it done? Simple. Section number 2 is on, like, your business philosophy. And don't think you've got to be a wordsmith here, because you don't. The basic premise behind a philosophy is, what is it that you believe? At the very core of your business, what is it that you stand for? Do you want to have high quality merchandise? Do you want to have great customer service? Do you want to run your business with honesty and integrity? Okay, so those are all things that you need to consider in your philosophical statement. And so in the business plan, I've asked you 3 really important questions. Why do I want to start this business besides the making money part? What problem are you going to solve? All right, what value do you bring to people or your customers? And what kind of an impact will it have on your community or in your house or in your family? And then I'll ask you a couple of questions of, like, what are the things that are most important to you? Do you want the Little Caesars model where you make a gazillion million pizzas and you sell them really cheap? Well, I don't know about you, but last time I had a Little Caesars pizza, it wasn't that good. Was it worth $6.99? Probably. Section 3 is here's where we get into some of the meat and potatoes of the business plan. And this is the business structure. Okay, you're gonna have to do a little bit of legwork here. If you haven't registered your business yet, go to your Secretary of State website and they're gonna have a Start Your Business section. Click that open. It's a really simple process on every state's website. And you just need to register a name, give them the address of the business, pay a pretty small fee. I think it's usually $50, $75, something like that. Okay, and this gets you an EIN number, which is an employee identification number. And you're gonna need this for if you wanna do some tax exempt things later on, or if you want to open a business checking account, you're gonna need that number. But in this section of the business structure, there's a list of about 20 questions, and they're all pretty simple. Like, what's the name of your business? Do you have a logo? Do you have a slogan? Okay, have you registered your business? What is your EIN number? Where's your business located? What's the email address of your business? And so you get the idea. These are not hard questions, but in your business plan, you're going to need that information. All right, section 4, this is website, passwords, and logins. Now, if you're like me, you probably have a computer, probably have a phone. Each of those has some kind of a password and login. All right, you go to the Secretary of State to register your business. You're going to have to create a login. If you're using any apps, any software, anything online, you're going to need a login and you're going to need a password. While this isn't necessarily part of the business plan per se, it doesn't take long before you have a laundry list. I mean, 10 or 12 login account numbers. So I created this log simply for you to just start keeping track. Okay, I can't tell you how many times I've gone on my Cricut machine, create a template, and I go to log in and I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't used a Cricut in like 3 months. I forgot my password. So what do? You reset your password. Don't waste all your time redoing that. Just write it down. All right, so this is one place to keep all that important information. Remember, this workbook is your roadmap for your business. This is a good place to keep all your important information. Even if you don't use it all in your business plan, at least it's one place to keep all your things. I think that's a pretty important piece to have. I've included it in the workbook for you, but I'm also going to make that piece available to you online in a PDF format. You can print it out and simply write in it. Just leave me a comment below. Tell me that you'd like the website password and login spreadsheet, and I'll be glad to send that over to you. All right, this next section is called Asset Inventory. And basically what I'm looking for here is just for you to list all of the equipment that you have, all of the stuff that you need to get your business running. This might seem a little bit like overkill, but trust me, you've already invested a lot of time and a lot of money on things that you need to consider as part of your business. For example, if you're using your phone for business, if you're using your computer for business, if you're using a Cricut, maybe you've got some tools or you've got some equipment that are specific. Let's say you're doing a t-shirt business, so you probably have a heat press. Maybe you've got a silk screening machine, or you've got ink or paint that you use. Now, why is this important to have? Well, because all these things are costs that are included in you starting the business, okay? Because it's important for you to be able to see how much money do you have invested? What if you need to replace something? What is that going to cost? Heaven forbid somebody broke into your garage and stole all your tools. Well, if you don't know what all you had, how are you going to replace it? So this is a great document to have. Again, it'll continue to grow as your business grows, but any financial institution, eventually you're probably going to want some business insurance, and that'll be important to have whenever that happens. All right, if you've stayed with me so far, we're on section 6, so there's only about 3 more sections to go. We're going to fly here. This next section is on subscription fees. It doesn't take long before you spend $20, $30, $40, $50, maybe even more on subscriptions. And again, these little fees, while they may not be significant, will add up over time. Again, I've referenced having a Cricut, so you've got to pay for your Cricut subscription. Maybe you have other apps that you use. You've got a subscription for music that you're putting into your videos. Maybe you've got a subscription for other tools that help you with your online marketing, or you've got a subscription for Canva. Okay, there's a variety of different things that you're going to spend anywhere from 99 cents to $10 a month. Doesn't seem like a lot, but over the course of the year, it's going to add up. The thing that kills me about some of these is that they give you a cheaper rate if you auto renew. It doesn't take long before you see your credit card charges just ringing up because all these subscriptions are renewing and you're like, oh gee, I forgot I even had that. In this section, I've got a nice spreadsheet that you simply fill out with the subscription name, how much is the monthly fee, what's it cost per year, when is the renewal date, and what are the terms. Do you pay for it every month or do you pay for it by the year? Pretty simple to do. Again, this isn't part of the business plan per se, but it's important for you to know how much you're spending in this area. This is another section I think is so important just to have for these hidden expenses. Same thing would be true for like bank fees, things like that. I'm also going to make this available in the workbook. All right, let's talk about section 7. And this is where you're going to sell your stuff. All right. And there's basically about 3 places to do that. You can sell things at a show or a market. You can sell things online, or you can sell things inside a brick and mortar business. All of those are viable options. Even doing all 3 of them are viable options. But how are you going to know if any of those are any good for you? Well, let's look at those 3 things really quick. For craft shows, obviously, you've got to create inventory before you go, or a market of some sort. Okay, so you're spending a lot of money up front, but you need to have already paid to get a spot in that location. So you need to know who to contact, what time do you need to show up to set up. So in section 7, okay, I have a section where you can just fill out everything about that show. When is it? Who's the contact person? What's it cost? All right. When's the application deadline? Have you turned in your application and is it approved? What about selling online? You want to sell on Etsy or OfferUp or Facebook? Most of these places don't cost very much. They will charge you a little bit of a fee, but it's important to write that down so you know where you're selling your stuff and where you're spending your money. And then the last place is like a retail shop. Maybe you want to sell your things in a boutique. You don't have enough money to open your own store. So you go to your local coffee shop, or you go to a business downtown who's willing to put some of your things up on the counter. Next time you go into a coffee shop, look around and look at all the stuff that they have. I guarantee you that they probably have some local vendors who are displaying some of their items there. But there are a few things you need to know about that too. Do your items kind of match the things they have in there? For example, you're going to approach a woodworking business, put some of your items up on the counter. So you kind of need to have an idea, does what you sell kind of fit in with the kinds of products that they sell? For example, I've got things in a local coffee shop. So I've got some cutting boards, I've got some charcuterie boards, I've got some small little personal gifts that someone might pick up for someone else. Obviously, they don't have a lot of inventory there, but they sell a variety of other gifts too. They sell t-shirts and they sell mugs, and they sell coffee and tea and things like that. Again, a lot of gift items. So my products fit in there pretty nicely. Okay, let's get into section 8. And this is your general product list. What are the things that you're going to sell? In my woodworking business, I sell some wall art like you see here behind me. Okay, I sell cutting boards. I sell charcuterie boards. I sell bandsaw boxes, outdoor signage. I do some outdoor furniture. Those are all things you're going to want to list in this section. Brief description. What's it cost to make it? What are you going to sell it for? All right. And kind of in general, what are the materials that you need? Pretty basic stuff. Don't go into a lot of detail here. You don't need to describe how you make it or anything like that. Important for you to know, like, what are all the items that you're going to sell? Okay, let's go to section 9, and that's accounting. If you haven't gotten very good at doing this, then you need to. You need to be mindful of every penny that you spend, what you spend it on, where you spend it. So you got to figure out a way to keep track of that. There's a lot of accounting software out there. You can buy QuickBooks. You can buy a lot of subscriptions online for accounting software. I would say if you're just starting out, probably don't have to spend any money on that. If you've got, Excel on your computer at home, or maybe you have Google Sheets. That's what I've done, is I've used a Google Sheet to create my personal accounting process. And it's really pretty simple. You basically need 3 things in your accounting: how much you're spending, how much you're making, and what is the total at the end of what you have. Let me give you an example. In my expense column, I built a planter box. Okay, I bought lumber, cost me $6. I bought some glue, cost me another $4. So far I've got $10 invested into this planter box. The income, okay, I sold one planter box. I sold it for $40. So my net profit is $30, sort of. Don't forget, you got to pay for the time that you spent building it. So whatever your cost per hour is, and then whatever other overhead you might have, electricity, perhaps, sanding paper. Every little thing that you spend needs to get recorded. All right. Trust me, it all adds up after a while. Now, you're not always going to buy a bottle of glue every single time you build a planter box, because that bottle of glue, you'll be able to build probably 7 or 8 planter boxes. What that does is that minimizes the amount of money that it costs per item. So instead of that one planter box, costing you $6 for glue, it really only costs you about $0.89, okay, because you're going to be able to build 7 boxes out of it. But anyway, it just gives you a better idea how much money you're spending on material. It's way easier to be a little bit more general in your accounting with how much it takes to make an item. Okay, so now we're at section 10, and this is where the rubber hits the road. Okay, this is where you're actually going to put the plan together. Okay, now let me just give you a quick example. In this section, all right, there are, 7 different areas for you to fill out. Let's look at section number 1 in your business plan. This is the executive summary. In the workbook, in sections 1A and 2A, you did all the homework on what is your brief overview of your business, what is your mission statement, what are some of your business goals, and then what are some of the products and services that you offer. That's the executive summary, and you've got all of that information in section 1A and 2A already in the workbook. Okay, so simply refer back to that. Go back to your notes. Section number 2 is the company description. So you're going to go to section 3A. Here you're going to list your name, your legal structure, your EIN number. What is the location of your business? How is your business modeled? What's the industry that it's in? That's all in section 3A that you filled out earlier. So you get the idea. So you've done all the legwork in the workbook, and now it's just a matter of converting it over from your notes into an electronic copy that you can print out. Now I'm going to make this workbook available online on my website. I'll put the link in the description below. If you order the book, I'm also going to send you a working document that you can electronically put all of your information in, and that way you don't have to type out the entire template. Okay, if you're like me, I wish when I was starting out that I would have had a easy to follow workbook like this. I think it would have removed a lot of the clutter. I think it would have gotten started a lot faster with my business, and I wouldn't have been quite as anxious about putting it together. This workbook isn't going to ask you tons and tons of questions. It's going to ask you the relevant questions to consider. If you take the time and work through the workbook, by the time you're finished, you'll have all the information you need to put your business plan together. So I hope the information that you find in the workbook was useful. I hope the information that I've shared with you today is helpful. I hope it's inspired you to get started. Again, I'll make the workbook available on my website. Look for the link in the description below. If you know of anybody else who's thinking about starting a business and struggling with a business plan, share the website with them. Okay, share the video with them, and let them take a look and listen for themselves, see if that's something that would be helpful. All of us struggle in starting our own business. That's okay, that's just part of it. But it's nice to be in a community of entrepreneurs that are willing to help each other out as much as they can. All of us have a variety of things that we struggle with. Some people want to share with you, and some they don't. Everybody wants to pretend like they've got all the answers and everything's pretty organized. Check out this last video that I did on the 5 confessions every business owner's had to face. It just kind of highlights some of the things that we all think about, but nobody really talks about. I think you'll find that pretty enjoyable. Okay, that's it for today. I'm Robert, and this is From the Woodshed. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.